Sorry about that. So Hashem, David Malach is stating, you saved me from the pain of Gehinnom, and we're saying, but he's still alive. How could he be suffering the pains of Gehinnom? And from here, the Gemara says to us that it is possible in this world to suffer, Rahman al-Islam, the pains of Gehinnom. So there's some pain that we could all know, understand, whatever, that those are pains of Gehinnom. But the Gemara goes one step further than that and says simple things that we all suffer: frustration, sad, like depression, anguish. Those are also fires of Gehinnom, and those are things that even like very ordinary everyday people suffer that suffer these fires of Gehinnom. And David HaMelech says, Hashem, even from those things, you saved me. You pulled me out of those things. Another opinion is that we actually turn around this pasuk a little bit, and we say, Hashem ha'elisa min shel nafshi chi yisani miyadi var. The same pasuk, Hashem, you brought my soul out of Gehinnom, and the commentaries tell us that the things we do in this world actually protect us from the Gehinnom, or the world in the world to come. And very famous story that's told of a neshama that lives its life nicely in this world, and after its time in this world, it goes up and it faces the heavenly courts, and it says that there's a big ruckus up in heaven because the person obviously was not a bad person and didn't deserve to go to Gehenna, but wasn't a good enough person to go to Gan Eden either. And so what was going to happen? Where was the soul going to go? What was its afterlife going to be? And the Medrash tells us that the soul made a deal with the heavenly court that it would find three things in this world which would give it the merit to go into Gan Eden. Which, before I even tell you what the three things are, is such an important lesson for us, because we can do things in this world that can help other souls to go to Gan Eden and to go into higher, better, good places. So the story goes that this neshama was sent back down into this world to look for three things that would give it the merit to go to Gan Eden. So the first thing, the neshama is flying around, or whatever neshamas do, and it sees that there is a girl who, for whatever reason, she was being punished by the townsman. She was a good, sweet girl, and her punishment was going to be that she was being tied to the back of a horse, and the horse was going to gallop around the city. And she has her last request, and her last request is she needs a pin. She needs a safety pin to pin her dress down, so that when she's being paraded around on the back of a horse, she should remain modest. And after a little while, the back of the horse, she dies, and the neshama comes down and takes that safety pin, and takes the safety pin up to heavens and says, in the merit of this, that this person worried so much about her dignity, her tznius, I think I deserve to go to Gan Eden. And the heavenly courts agree, and they send the neshama to find two more things that it would merit to go to Gan Eden. And so the neshama comes back into this world and looks for another something that it can take up to heaven. And it sees that there's a crowd of ruffians around a little boy, and the little boy is being bullied, badly bullied by them, and he's been surrounded by them, and they keep knocking off his yarmulke, and he keeps bending down, picking it up and putting it on his head, and then somebody else knocks it off his head, and again the little boy cries and puts the yarmulke on his head, and this goes on and on and on until the boy finally escapes without his yarmulke. And the neshama takes the yarmulke and takes it up to heaven and says, here is a second schus of a Kiddush Hashem, of someone who suffering for the sake of Torah mitzvahs. And the third thing that the neshama comes down and finds is that he finds an old man who was sitting in his home, and his home was being vandalized by robbers or whatever. And he holds very tightly onto a little bottle. What is the little bottle? And for sure, the robbers want that little bottle, and he doesn't want to give it up. And what is it? When the robbers find it, they're very get it from him. They're very disappointed because it just has sand in it, and it actually was sand from Eretz Yisrael that he always kept with him, so that when he would be buried with a little bit of sand from the land of Israel. And so the neshama takes this little bottle with some few bits of sand and takes it back up to heaven. And these are, as the words of the Medrash, 3 gifts in exchange for Gan Eden, that the neshama shows up in heaven and says, people in this world do such great things that we can be raised, and we can raise others, min shol nafshi, from the depths of Gehenna. So it's not just for ourselves, but this is for other people as well. David HaMelech continues pasuk Hey, and he says, one more point on the last words of this pasuk, where it says, he makes me live miyagi bar, from the depths that I could fall into. And the Medrash comments over here that sometimes we fall into the pit of Gehenna in this world, which is we fall into sadness, depths of despair. And he says, Chisani, give me life, is an instruction from David HaMelech and for us, that we have to choose carefully who we surround ourselves with, so that we don't fall miyardi into the depths of sadness, which the Medrash over here is translating as Gehenna. Continues with pasuk Hey and says, Zomru LaHashem Chasidav, let the pious ones sing out to Hashem, and give thanks to his holy name. And this concept of singing comes up again and again and again in Tehilim, that singing represents being happy, being confident, being thankful. And over here, Radak says, this singing, and what is this happiness about? It's the kindness of Hashem. Take notice of the name of Hashem that's being used here, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, that we sing that Hashem accepts forgiveness, that Hashem accepts teshuvah. He forgives us for any of our sins. And that's the greatest thing that we have to sing about, says the Radak. And then David HaMelech continues and he says, pasuk Vav, ki rega ba'apay. His anger is just one moment. Chayim birtzonoi, and his kindness is forever. Be'erev yalin bechi, in the evening he lies down to sleep with tears. V'laboker rina, but in the morning there will be joy. So first, at the literal surface level understanding of this, ki rega ba'apay, one of the greatnesses of Hashem is that he's only angry for a short amount of time. Chaim b'rtzonai, but even while he's angry, he desires good for us. He wants us. His intention is that we should be good, that things should be good for us. So that's at a simple level. And I think it's something we can understand. If you have someone who you really love, you can be angry with them, but you don't want bad to happen to them. You're angry, but you want good. Your desire is for good, and that's if we humans can do that or do that, then how much more so Hashem does this. A slightly deeper explanation of this, ki rega, because a minute, ba'apay, like in our nose, so to speak, in our breathing, chaim birtzonoi, means our lives are full, are big, are for life. And Chazal explain that would be a very literal translation. And Chazal explain what does that mean? When a person realizes that rega ba'apai, one moment of our life, chaim birtzonai, is precious for our whole life. We can't say like just this minute is not so precious or just that minute I'm going to do nothing with, because rega ba'apai, one moment of our life is extremely, extremely precious. And when we realize how precious each moment is, then we are more and more careful about how we use our time. What is this concept of Be'erev Yalin Bechi Velabaker arena? So often we've come across this idea that Erev represents dark difficulties, and that's nighttime, and Baker, daytime, morning, represents light and good things and happy things. So night, Erev, is often represents a time that's really difficult for us. But Erev Yalin Bechi. At night, when things are hard, when things are difficult, we might really feel like we're going to sleep crying. Things are so hard. But what happens really is even when we go to sleep in that difficult time, what we need to be doing, says David Hamelach, is we have to be looking towards morning when it's going to be okay again, when it's going to be happy and joyful again, and see how the David Hamelach has expressed this. The wording he uses, he says, "Be'erev yalin bechi." In the evening, I might go to sleep crying. Vela baiker. And to the morning, Rina, I'm already looking to see that there's going to be happiness, like that it's going to be okay. And we have this promise right from the beginning of creation. It says in the first few psukim of Bereshis, "Vayhi erev, vayhi voker." And there was nighttime and there's morning time. And a person has to know that when they're going through the nighttime, that v'labaykerina, there will be happiness again, there will be joy, there will be morning again. Adam Farshim explained these words, Erev to mean this world, and Boker to mean the world to come, and explained that one of the reasons that people struggle in this world is so that La Boker, in the morning, Rina, in the world to come, they will be able to rejoice greatly. And obviously, we ask Hashem, we want to rejoice in this world and in the world to come. David Melech continues telling us about his harsh journeys, and he says, "Vani amarti b'shalvi," and I said in calmness, "Bal emayt la'elam," I would never stumble. Okay, so David Melech is saying over here, I was so sure that I would never falter. I was so in control. I was the king. I had studied. I was holy. I had a good relationship with Hashem. And I was sure, Balamite, that I would never, ever stumble. And then I realized that I'm not completely in charge. So he says in the next pasuk, Hashem, birtzoncha emadata lahari'ez. But Hashem, I realized it was your will, your desire that I should be okay, and that I should lahari'ez, that I would stand up strong. But when you hid your face, that's when I was petrified. And we all know that when we feel Hashem around us, we feel much more confident. When we don't understand what Hashem is doing, that's histarta. Hashem hides his face. That's our frightening times. That's our scary times. So David HaMelech is explaining in these two psukim that a person has to realize that they are so not in control, and that Hashem is the one who runs the world. And if I'm doing well, it's because Hashem wants me to be doing well. And he then continues, and he says, Elecha Hashem ekra. I called out to you, Hashem. Ve'el Hashem eschanan, and I turned to Hashem, and eschanan is to plead or to beg. And the commentaries say that there's lots of different ways that we daven. So sometimes we daven a formal davening. Sometimes we daven straight from our heart. Sometimes our formal davening is straight from our heart. And the commentaries point out to us that what David HaMelech says is that we have to turn to Hashem in every single way. We have to be filled with different methods of turning to Hashem. So we have to know that we're turning to Hashem. Which Hashem are we turning to? Which behavior of Hashem are we turning to? Is the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, the God of mercy, the God of kindness, the God of Rachamim. So Elecha Hashem Ekra. It's to you, Hashem, the kind God, who I'm calling out. And Ekra is to call out. It means not just picking up your siddur and saying the words that someone else said you must say without any feeling, but Ekra, call out. And one of the commentaries explains that when you call someone, so you shout, okay, you call out to them, you make sure that they hear you, and this should be our relationship with Hashem. Ekra, that we call out to Hashem, that He hears us. Ve'el Hashem eschanan, and eschanan to beg for grace, to plead. So you know from Parshas Va'eschanan, where Moshe Rabbeinu says Va'eschanan el Hashem, I pleaded with Hashem, and that's also what we're supposed to be doing. If something is really important to us, then eschanan, we need to turn and plead to Hashem to be gracious to us. Most of the things that we have in this world, we have because Hashem is being gracious to us. And that's why we have to keep on asking Him, calling Him and begging of Him that He should give us everything that we need, everything that we want, that will make our lives happier, easier, just because of Hanan, because Hashem wants to. He's just being nice and gracious to us. And David HaMelech continues and he says, Ma betza bedami, what benefit is there if I died? Beridity el shachas, if I would descend down into the depths, hayodcha afar, does the dust acknowledge you? Hayagid amitecha, or does the dust tell about your truth? So he's using a different kind of psychology here, if we could call it that, where he's saying to Hashem, what would be the purpose if I died? What would be the purpose if I got punished? My bets are what purpose is it? We actually express this also in the Hallel, where we say to Hashem that the dead don't praise you. But we're asking of Hashem, what gain would there be if I died? And what would be the purpose of everything I did in the world if I just disappeared now and went down into Gehenna? The word Betza is an acronym, the Bet, the Tzadik, and the Ayin. Boker, Tzaharayim, and Erev. Morning, afternoon, and evening. So simple level, my Betza, what would my mornings, my afternoons, and my evenings be? What would the worth of it all if I just died and finished? But deeper than that, we told that morning, afternoon, and evening represents prayer, right? We daven Shachrit in the morning, Mincha in the afternoon, and Ma'ariv in the evening. And David HaMelech is asking Hashem, Ma Betza, what would all my prayers be, Bedami, if I just died? If we didn't see any purpose in them at all. And he continues and he says, Shema Hashem v'chaneni. Hashem, please listen to me and be gracious to me. Hashem heyeh ezerli. Hashem, be my help. And so here simply David HaMelech is asking Hashem to be nice, to be kind, to be gracious. And he says, I know you, Hashem, that there's sometimes strict judgment and there's sometimes not strict judgment. I'm asking Hashem that there should be just strict judgment. There should not be strict judgment at all. Then comes Pasuk Yud Beis, and he says, "Hafachta mispedi lemacholi." You turned over my mourning, my sadness, into dancing. Pitachtosaki, you undid my sackcloths, but Azraini, and you gave me strength, Simcha, with joy. When my granddaughter, who's now 16, Kanan Hara, when she was a baby, that song came out. One of the Jewish singers, Hafachta Mispedili Li, and she could be doing anything, and she was in the middle of having a tantrum. If someone started singing this line for her, she stopped in the middle of her tantrum, and she sang along with you, and then when you finished singing, she continued her tantrum from where she had left off. So, okay, so our whole family knows this line very well. What does this mean? You've turned over my sadness into dancing, and Chassidus explains to us that when a person connects with Hashem through love, then it says Zdonot Nasek Zachias. His sins become merits. So it's one of the concepts which we use often. When a person stops his sinning and he does teshuvah, that's really great. He reaches great heights. But when he does his teshuvah out of love rather than out of fear, then everything he did wrong before now not only disappears, but comes as merits. And David HaMelech speaking about this over here, and he's saying, look at the greatness of this. Somebody who does teshuvah, a real kind of teshuvah, hafachta mispedi lemachali. You turned all those sadnesses, all those bad things into dancing, into celebration. And who can do this? It says, my soul, okay, wants to sing out to you with covered with respect, and it should not be silenced. Hashem Elokai le'olam adeko. Hashem, I'll give thanks to you forever. So, just as an interesting commentary, Lema'an yezamercha chavod, in order that we can sing respectfully to you, so the commentaries, Lema'an, the Rosh Tevos, the first letters of these words, Lema'an yezamercha chavod, is Lamed, Yud, and Chaf. That is Levi, Yisrael, and Kohanim. This is something that applies to all Jews, whether you are a Jew who is a Levi, you're a Kohen, you're a Yisrael. You should always be able to express yourself through singing to show respect to Hashem. And how do we do that? This is via Tehilim. This Sefer of Tehilim, everybody, no matter who you are, can open it, can use it to sing praise, to sing thanks, to ask for kindness, for whatever emotion we have, we can use it for turning to Hashem. And we shouldn't be silenced. So Rabbi Yisrael of Rizhin explains. He says that most people complain when Hashem afflicts them. Other people are more gracious, but inside they say, like, why is Hashem doing this? Why me? Why is this happening? We have an Aaron HaKohen who's very famous, that he reached a very high level, which the Torah actually says, V'yidam Aaron. Aaron was quiet. He didn't complain about the pain that he was facing. And then we have a David HaMelech, that Hashem Elokai le'olam adeko, Hashem, I will thank you forever, that even though he was suffering, even though he was in crisis, even though he was being challenged, he didn't stop thanking Hashem and praising Hashem, even for his hardships. That's the simple understanding of this parak of Tehilim. I want to show you quickly before we finish. According to the Piskei of Kahana, this chapter of Tehilim is a conversation that's happening between all the people in Shushan at the time of Purim. So the first pasuk, which is Beis, Arimimcha Hashem ki dilisani. I praise you, Hashem, because you raised me up. This was a proclamation made by Mordechai. He's on the horse. He was sitting in sackcloth at the gates of the palace. And Hashem, Aramimcha Hashem, Hashem, you raised me up. You raised me completely. Then all the Jews who were watching this, they all said, Zamru Hashem Chasidov, which is Pasuk Hey, sing to Hashem, all the pious ones, and realize and thank the name of Hashem, the greatness of Hashem in His holiness. And then you have and the Jews explain that for one moment Hashem was angry, but He really wanted us to be okay. Then comes Haman, and Haman says, "Vani amarti b'shalvi," and I said in my absolute confidence, "Bal emet la'elam." I'm so great. I'm in such a high space. I'll never ever be pulled down. And then all the so that's when Haman wanted Mordechai to be hanged and whatever. So all the Jews and Esther and Mordechai, when they see what happens to Haman, their response is, Pasuk Yud Beis, Hafachta mispedila machali. Hashem, you turned it over. You turned our sadness into dancing. You turned what looked like our end into a celebration, the Purim celebration. And the Medrash tells us that at the moment that Haman came to fetch Mordechai, to put him on the horse, Mordechai was sitting and saying Shema, and he refused to be interrupted, even though Haman was agitated and shouting at him and in a rush. And over there is the response, right now I am saying Shema, I'm giving respect to Hashem, and I'm not interested in being silenced and being quiet. And so that, in very brief, could go into that as a whole show by itself, is that this parak is the Purim story, the Purim conversation that's happening between Haman, Mordechai, Esther, and the people of Shushan. The pasuk which ends over here, Hashem Elokai la'olam odeka, Hashem my God, forever I will thank you. So from here we have the opinion that when Mashiach comes and all the other yontifs are nullified, they don't happen anymore. The holiday of Purim, la'olam odeka, it will continue always and forever. Even, please God, soon when we have a Beis Hamikdash and Korbanos and all of that, we will still celebrate the Purim miracle. And I guess that is where we are finishing. We will also take a break from Shiurim for now, for the school holidays. So I wish you all a good December holidays. If you're here in Johannesburg, it's actually, if the weather clears up, it's one of the nicest places to be in December. And if you do go to Cape Town, enjoy the sea and the wind and whatever else. And if you go anywhere else, you should just be safe until we resume again in a few weeks. So,
thank you, Rick.
Gaia.
Thank you, Rifki. Have a good break.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rifki. Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rifki. Have a wonderful break and a good trip to the States.
Yes, thank you.
And send our best wishes to everyone there.
I will, please God.
And just more immediately, have a wonderful Shabbos. And thank you for everything.
Thank you.
And we look forward to rejoining next year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rif.
Bottom right, still.